Happy Monday, everyone. This is Martha with Nature Niche. This week I want to share with you Downy Rattlesnake Plantain, Goodyeara pubescens. This is a native perennial orchid, and contrary to what the common name might suggest, it is not closely related to broadleaf plantain, although its basal leaves do look similar to that plant. They have beautiful white veins, however, and that contributed to its common name. Folks thought that vein network reminded them of the pattern of snake skin. And the Native Americans had many uses for this plant, including treating snake bites, burns, and many other ailments. But this is a native orchid, and you can find it flowering in the woods in the summertime. So it's a neat species. Most wildflowers you think of blooming in deep shade in the forest in early spring. This one you can find in summer. And it has a coefficient of conservatism of 7. So it's nice quality plant, and it is found across much of the lower peninsula and a handful of counties in the central UP. And it's the most common Goodyeara in the southern half of the lower peninsula, and it's the only one you can find in the southernmost part of Michigan. We only have 4 species in the state, and each one has a distinctive leaf patterning of those veins and shape to the leaf. So there you can tell them apart even without flowers. You can find this orchid growing in almost any kind of forest, more often in coniferous or mixed conifer deciduous forests than in beech maple or oak hickory. Downy rattlesnake plantain grows in sandy, somewhat acidic soils, often associated with pine and hemlock. It'll be in moist microsites sometimes, elevated on hummocks and stumps in cedar or eastern white pine hardwood swamps. It prefers medium shade to dappled sunlight and is generally found in mesic to dry mesic conditions, but those sites, the microsites, tend to be humid and protected from drying winds. It blooms mid to late summer for 3 to 4 weeks. As far as identification goes, look for the low rosette of evergreen basal leaves. The leaves are 1.5 to 2 inches long and about 3/4 to 1.5 inches wide. They're ovate to broadly elliptic in shape, and they have an entire or smooth margin. There are 5 to 7 parallel primary veins in those leaves, and they're connected by a network of secondary veins. And both primary and secondary veins are white against a very dark green background of the rest of the leaf. So very striking. The petiole or stalk-like base has white veins running down it, and that has winged edges. And after several years, this plant will send up a spike-like raceme of flowers, and that flowering stalk is 4 to 14 inches tall. And it's round, glandular, pubescent, just meaning kind of sticky, hairy. And the lower 2/3 have widely separated small leafy bracts, and the upper third has many small, densely packed flowers that face out in all different directions. There are 3 sepals and 3 petals to each flower. The upper sepal and 2 lateral petals are fused to form the hood of the orchid, and that has a slightly upturned edge to it. And then the 2 lateral sepals are free, and the lower petal forms an open pouch with a minute downward pointing beak. So hard to see without a hand lens on some of that, but the flowers mature into fruit, which is an ovoid capsule that's brown when mature. It splits open to release tiny dust-like seeds. The root system of the plant is shallow creeping rhizomes, and after the plant has flowers, the rhizome will form 1 to 3 clonal offsets, so form new shoots. That original rhizome will die, and that's how you get new plants by vegetative reproduction and form these small colonies that you often find this particular species in. So the root system does have a beneficial endomycorrhizal association with certain kinds of fungi, and I want to stress that this plant should not be collected in the wild. Doing so easily destroys local populations, and you need to have that correct mix of fungi, and that's what the small dust-like seeds need to be able to establish. So you don't want to dig them up. This plant does make an excellent terrarium species, but you want to be sure you're getting it from a reputable nursery that propagates them and is not harvesting them from wild populations. This species' flowers are cross-pollinated by bumblebees and green metallic bees, but other than that, little else is known about the floral, faunal relationships of this species. It is a very striking plant, a fun thing to go look for over the next several weeks in all sorts of different forest habitats. I hope you get to find some and enjoy your walks in the woods. Take care and have a good week.